Dubai and Abu Dhabi are really leading the way in terms of how AI is going to be adopted in the region. And now they have so many interesting collaborations with such big tech firms when it comes to artificial intelligence and the technology and infrastructure. To the extent that governments have a mandate to actually own and deploy artificial intelligence and within their entire frameworks.
Our today's guest works at the intersection of strategy, operations, and real world execution. Love Mansukhani has spent years helping enterprises scale across logistics, warehousing, digital transformations from Dubai. Looking forward to an honest, practical conversation.
What comes next is the second layer of artificial intelligence is workflows. Collaboration is extremely important. Find the right partners. No one's going to be able to do everything on their own. There's way too much knowledge out there for one person to do it all by themselves.
Welcome, Love, for joining in the CBX podcast. And the most important part here is that today our discussion is going to revolve around the AI strategy and innovation and operations around it. And this is going to be very engaging and very helpful for the audience who are trying to get inside AI, learn AI, try to become indie hackers, try to grow in their own direction, especially in the current world of rapid, fast growth in AI domain. So, yeah, thanks a lot for joining in and welcome to CBX. And love, what we can do is, and we can start from a quick introduction at your end, so that the people know about you and about your background and what you're doing currently. We can start from there.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here. My name is Love Mansukhani. I currently work as a director of digital transformation and growth at one of the leading cold chain logistics firms in the UAE. But we also operate in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and soon we're looking to take over, operate in all 6 of the GCC countries with eyes on the wider region as well. I've been in this role for about 5 years, and prior to that, I was an entrepreneur like yourself, and I ran a consultancy for about 10 years, but it was predominantly in the hospitality industry, and we were quite severely impacted by COVID. And this is when I kind of had to pivot, and I landed in a position where I got the opportunity to deploy some very interesting digital tools and scale the business using that. And ever since then, it's been such an exciting journey because, once you do it successfully in one project, you just kind of start thinking of what are the possibilities of applying, new technologies in so many different domains. And here we are 5 years later, a company that at the time when I joined was doing 2,000 deliveries a day, does close to 60 to 65,000 deliveries today per day in 3 different countries. And this is all because of the use of technology. So, yeah. Thank you again for having me on the show.
Yep. Perfect. And thanks a lot. I'll start with one very basic thing, which comes to any person who is trying to skill up in terms of, let's say, learning activities, especially growing in this AI domain. And the first thing which comes in my mind when it happens is, what are the job opportunities? And being in UAE, being in Dubai, for someone in India who is basically looking to add their skills and then finally land a job, how do you think and what is the kind of scope they have in this AI domain in the region right now?
I think before I dive into the job opportunities in the region, I think it's really important to understand the landscape of the region and what their positioning is in terms of AI over here. I think UAE specifically, Dubai and Abu Dhabi in particular in this entire country are really leading the way in terms of how AI is going to be adopted in the region. They've got a 2031 AI vision, and this is essentially being led by the Crown Prince of Dubai himself, Sheikh Hamdan, and he's quite passionate about the topic. And as you can see, they're doing so many different AI events. I mean, it was one of the events where we actually met, and then along with that, there was Jutex, and now they have so many interesting collaborations with such the big tech firms, NVIDIA, Oracle, coming in, and the entire G42 sort of a project that's happening in Abu Dhabi. It's a huge and a very exciting time to be in the region. In fact, when I was at MIT for an entire 1 year, I had so many different colleagues who were in this CXO cohort of mine. There was about 250 students, each of us doing some sort of a chief course, which is Chief Product Officer, Chief Technology Officer, Chief Digital Officer, and Chief Sustainability Officer. And the common theme across all of these different cohorts was AI. Everyone was talking about how AI is going to be deployed in each of their specific domains. And a year later, we've graduated 6 months after when GTEx was happening 2 weeks ago. A lot of these colleagues were like, "Love, we're going to be in Dubai and we want to come and check out the space and see what's happening." And one of them even landed a job with Abu Dhabi government. So, I think what I'd like to, encapsulates with that sort of story is that the opportunities are endless in terms of artificial intelligence, given that the UAE has made such a strong position in leading the way. They really got a vision to become one of the leaders in the world when it comes to artificial intelligence and the technology and infrastructure, to the extent that governments have a mandate to actually own and deploy artificial intelligence within their entire frameworks. So sovereign AI is a huge subject matter over here, and the UAE governments over here are so digitally evolved and advanced that they have such a huge paperless sort of a theme around the entire operations. So technology is like at the forefront. And I think there was another thing that I heard was, I think governments are mandated to actually work with AI startups that have a certain official grade, which is being awarded by governments to startups, because they come and check you for quality, they come and check you for reliability, trust, GDPR, data privacy, etc. They come and really grade you in terms of the quality of work that you're doing. And if you have a certain caliber, you get graded, and then the government companies are allowed to work with you. In fact, they're mandated to work with you if you have a certain grade. So yeah, like I said, opportunities are endless. And when it comes to landing the job, you really need to decide which domain you're coming in. And I think when it comes to artificial intelligence, it's nothing without having some sort of a industry knowledge, domain knowledge. Whatever domain knowledge you bring to the table, that can be significantly advanced by artificial intelligence coming in and helping you really grow your skill sets and take it forward. So yeah, that's what I'd like to say.
Quite interesting and quite powerful, and that opens up plethora of opportunities in this region for anyone studying in this domain, and kind of taking a part towards like getting accessibility and opportunities in this area, whether it is students who are learning, or even doing jobs, or indie hackers who are basically entrepreneurs. So that's quite powerful. And your last point brings up an interesting scenario where the domain knowledge, and especially what I've seen here in past, is that somehow almost each and every domain we are touching this AI at one level or the other. How do you think the kind of an impact it is creating in logistics at this point of time? Or what do you see the future in this domain in terms of like the direction which it can take and transformation which it can do in that region, or maybe across the globe?
Interesting question. Again, before I get to the bottom of it, I think I'd like to take a couple steps back. And how I see AI is not as something that has to be deployed in terms of a particular product, or in terms of a particular domain, but it really allows me, it equips me to really reinvent the entire business model using artificial intelligence, right? We're going to see so much business model innovation thanks to this new technology that what I even tell you today is the drop of the ocean of what could be possible, right? So while domain knowledge is extremely crucial to grow the roots in terms of what are the different advancements you want to do in your particular industry, I think only time will tell what will essentially become very, very obvious using the technology that we will be doing in the foreseeable future. In our case, in terms of logistics, our specialty is last mile logistics, right? In fact, funny story, about 30 to 40 years, 50 years ago, when my father moved to Dubai, he started over here in the logistics industry. He started taking goods from Dubai to Abu Dhabi. Then he built his entire business, and he had a fleet of trucks that was taking textiles from Dubai to Abu Dhabi and back. And I never got into logistics during that time. I've only been in logistics for the past 5 years, and it's funny that we've come all full circle. But my dad didn't use any technology, and his routes were literally Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and back. Take it from one market to the other. And he scaled his business. He had a fleet of like 30 to 40 trucks doing that. But today we have in our organization a fleet of like 500 vehicles, plus whatever outsourced partners that we use. It is a significant number of last mile deliveries that we do. So our operations are so precise. My dad was doing A to B, but over here we're doing a permutation and combination of millions of different routes. There's route optimization, there is address verifications, there's address cleanup, there is getting all the different data points from every single shipment tracking. There's live tracking, there's custom service built on top of that. And this is across every single industry that you can imagine. So my father was only doing textiles, and today we're doing everything from pharma to e-commerce to food and beverage to FMCG, and the list goes on, and fashion as well. So in terms of what we've seen in the past 5 years, what are the different opportunities for artificial intelligence for us is, the number one thing is we need to start building our data infrastructure. I think without having a strong data infrastructure, we've realized that deploying AI is going to be very superficial. Yes, you can have assistance on your products, right? But that is only just scratching the surface of what AI can do. Having assistance on your operating systems, telling you, asking them questions, what were my metrics today, etc. Again, it's just shortening the time that you could have done this manually, and you could have got all of those results. But again, it's literally just making you a little bit more efficient. That's what assistants do. But I think what comes next is the second layer of artificial intelligence is workflows, right? And I think you can automate certain workflows by using AI, which is something that we are looking to do in the customer service sort of field, having certain cases that are quite repetitive. We can take care of those using workflows. But I think the final step is when you can actually start building agents, when when these AI tools can actually perform a task for you based on reasoning, based on thinking, And to do that reasoning and thinking, you need to have data. Without having that data, you're not going to be able to train any of your agents or models to be able to perform the task with accuracy that you want it to be doing. So I think for every company that's out there, the number one thing that they really need to invest on is proprietary data and a data infrastructure on which they can start building their agents. So in our case, we have started building our database, and we are currently in the process of listing all the different agentic cases that we might be able to deploy. We're at a stage of exploration, I would like to say. But what we are looking to do with all of this data is to unlock various different channels of revenue. For us at the moment as last mile delivery operators, we're very focused on planned deliveries. We do next day delivery, we do scheduled delivery, we do same day delivery, we do express deliveries. But the more and more, the entire market is starting to ask for quick commerce. We've gone from e-commerce to quick commerce, and people are asking for deliveries to be done in 15 minutes, in 20 minutes, in 30 minutes, and depending on the difference, the type of SKU you want delivered, they have a different SLA, So I think it comes down to using all this data to understand which of these SKUs need to be delivered at what SLA, and that can all be done using the data and the AI tools on top of that, and making things a lot more efficient in terms of planning, in terms of demand forecasting, in terms of scheduling, in terms of assigning orders to the right assets that are nearby, and in terms of even understanding where your next node of deliveries should start operating from. So that's the sort of inputs, benefits we're looking to get from these new technologies.
Interesting. And this basically has a big transformation. And the most important part, which you said, that the step one is having a very resilient and stable data system, which basically can be used for further phase 2 and 3 of the entire cycle. So this is very critical and important. So, like, how was your personal journey in terms of the kind of evolution which is happening on AI, for someone who would want to understand and take an inspiration from, like, in terms of your digital evolution of utilizing X tool, then switching to Y, and then checking for Z? What's your personal journey on towards it in the last 2-3 years in this whole evolution while doing activities of work?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think the entire space is extremely overwhelming, and for people who are just starting out, I would suggest take each day as it comes. Take each tool as it comes along. You know, you gotta like have understand what your use cases are. You need to understand which tool works for you, and really start creating your own ecosystem of tools, your own range of skills that you want to start leveraging using AI, right? And I think ChatGPT has its strengths, Gemini has its strengths, Grok has its strengths, you know, Perplexity has its strengths. So we need to figure out what kind of works for us. And I think uh, to answer that question, I think it's really important to understand that every single organization out there has its unique processes, it has its unique set of people, and it is a completely unique business altogether. So I don't think one size fits all in any way, right? So what I do in terms of keeping myself up to date in this entire uh, you know, keeping myself up to date in this day and age of AI is I take 15 minutes to even 1 hour every single morning, and I do my dose of micro learning, right? I continuously keep investing in staying up to date in terms of doing education of some sort of the other. I think, I mean, we've all heard of Moore's law, right? I mean, whatever we have today, 2 years later, is going to be completely obsolete. Technology decays so fast that what is relevant today is not relevant tomorrow. So what was interesting that I came across as a concept was, I think when you start building any sort of tool or product or a value proposition, you need to start at the very basic, right? So which is your MVP, as most people call it. And in this case, you're essentially just solving a particular problem, right? And the problem that you're solving today might have a lot of value, and it's so important to actually solve that problem so fast, because otherwise somebody else is going to come in and actually solve that problem for you. But what really keeps you ahead of the game is all the additional peripheral add-on values that you can bring along with it. And if you make your product AI native, and you're able to provide so many different forecasting tools, demand forecasting, etc., using all the various different types of data models, AI models, ML models, to keep your product ahead of the game compared to everyone else. Now you might be in a market where 5 or 6 different people might be solving the same problem, but it's your advanced tooling that's going to keep you ahead of the game and your market share because of that advanced tool, right? And that's essentially how we want to be thinking about how to deploy AI in today's world. Solve your core problem, do it fast, iterate, and continuously add additional value by deploying additional advanced tools along to it.
Interesting. And when you are, let's say, evolving yourself in terms of going through new tools, how do you reject a tool? Like, what are the bases on which you say this may not be worth it, or I shouldn't be proceeding further towards it? What are the key criterias which you look for in a tool in your own sphere of business use cases? Let's say you're using GPT, and then you use Gemini. Is there a specific standard which you keep in mind in terms of using a tool in terms of saying that, yeah, these are my shortlisted products which I would tend to move forward?
See, given that we're still in the exploration and research sort of stage of deploying it, and we're still in the process of building our data infrastructure, we haven't had the opportunity to actually reject any tools. We're still working with whatever comes our way. We haven't really deployed any of these tools on any of our products to date. But that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It's not going to happen soon. I know you and I are working on something on the side, and we're going to have to make those decisions very soon. But I think a straightforward answer to that would be to have a really strong governance sort of structure in place, right? And I think every company is going to have its own governance model around it. And I think it's important to identify your metrics to see what sort of benefits and ROIs that you're expecting from a particular tool before you're able to actually say, hey, this isn't something that's going to work for me. I'm going to actually start investing in this, or I'm going to actually cut my losses, pivot, or completely scratch the program altogether. So I know it's a pretty a standard response to how to reject a tool, but that really is.
Governance, including the regulations which come up with that. If you're using something where that data is going, that comes up. So yeah, it's very important in terms of the cost, in terms of the data. So this whole governance thing is an important criteria, especially in the business side, that we take care of that in the right way. So
Yeah.
Completely agree to that. So one interesting thing which I've seen is like when an engineer is trying to go and explore these new evolution and modifications happening on a regular basis in this whole domain, it's important that a new skill need to come out, and I call it learning how to learn. So the kind of way, or the way we choose in terms of going through videos or books or practical scenarios, what do you suggest for an engineer 6 or 7 years experience, or someone who's a fresher? What should they do in terms of adapting to this evolution? And the crux of it, like according to you, what is the fundamentals for learning how to learn, or what are the quick hacks for it, and what worked for you?
What has worked for me is look, for me, it's all about micro learnings, right? I think it's all about, as long as you're given 15 to 20 minutes at least per day, learning something new, or doing a little bit of reading, or understanding a new concept, and continuously evolving in the way you think, I think that is going to be the way you win this game, right? If you continuously evolve in the way you think, because if you're going to do the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same results. And it's only when you start thinking in new ways, which is design thinking, creative thinking, lean thinking, all of these sort of concepts. If you start thinking about all of this and really start applying it, so I think whatever you learn, you need to start applying it to your business every single day, to your work, to your projects, to whatever it is that you're working on, right? You need to come in and say, okay, today I learned this concept. Well, how am I gonna? I did this in the morning. I go to work in the afternoon. I sit with my team and said, listen, guys, I've come across this cool concept, and I think this could be really beneficial to us. How do we apply this to our work? And we do it, and we see what results we get from it. And at least we know this is a tool that can be scaled up, or it can be scaled down, or it's something that it's just good to have, or it's something that doesn't work for us. There's so many different ways to see the outcome of a particular learning, right? And learning is learning. You're gonna keep at it for the rest of your life. The day you stop is the day you kind of have given up, right? So I think daily learnings is the way to go. Whether it's getting certifications all the way, whether it's watching YouTube videos, whatever you need to do, right? I think certifications are cool if you're really trying to brand yourself, and if you're like trying to go corporate and you're trying to land in a position where people look at these things. But if you're a doer, if you're a builder, if you're an entrepreneur by heart, certifications don't really matter as long as you can drive results. So I think if you are going to continuously start getting all of these sort of learnings from YouTube, it's you sent me, was it you who sent me this a link about Harvard has just recently launched their entire AI and ML program for free on YouTube, and sorry, was it Harvard or was it Stanford? I think Stanford has completely made their AI and ML program free for everyone to watch on YouTube. So, hey, I think the knowledge is out there. You don't really need to spend money to get knowledge. I think it's a matter of dedication, discipline, and if you're able to do it consistently, you're going to see results.
Interesting. Yeah, and this is very true too. Let's say that an engineer who's basically trying to build a product end to end and want to launch it from 0 to 1 in this whole concept. And if, let's say, I want to do the same activity in UAE, for example, what is the difference or key basis which one should think about in terms of the entire end-to-end launch with, let's say, using core system architecture and AI on top of it? Is there a difference when someone is launching something in India versus someone trying to do something and build something or cater to an audience in UAE? Is there a difference in terms of the life cycle of the product and the launch?
From a technical standpoint, I don't think so, right?
Mm.
From a regulatory standpoint, yes, for sure. We're going to have our own regulatory, both different regions and countries have their own regulatory sort of frameworks that we need to abide by. But from a cultural standpoint, there's going to be a huge difference, right? In India, the startup culture, I mean, in both countries, startup culture is huge, right? But over here, startup culture is, we're a microeconomy as opposed to India, which is a massive economy, right? And even though both countries are really on a pedestal when it comes to whatever achievements that they both are known for, I think culture is going to always be a big thing. But what's also important to keep in mind is that the UAE has one of the largest ecosystem of Indian expats, and I think there is a big overlap. And I think we kind of break, the UAE has the best of all worlds. That we're 93% expats in this country. You know, a lot of us that are actually born and raised here tend to identify more to the UAE than as like myself than to be someone from India, because I've never lived in India. And for me, it's something that I relate to more over here. But again, by blood, by heart, by soul, I am Indian and I have all my values, etc. So I get to balance both of this. And I think you got to look at it from every single perspective, right? So whether it's technical, whether it's regulatory, whether it's cultural, whether it's people, whether it's hierarchical, and whether it's corporate culture as well, Corporate culture in India it could be completely different as opposed to corporate culture over here for startups versus corporate. There's so many different ways to look at it. And I think, as I said, unique businesses, unique people, unique processes.
Yeah. And this comes to a lot of people when they're planning to move out, build a product specific to that domain, and culture becomes an important aspect in terms of choosing the audience for their product and then accordingly launch it. So, but this is interesting. This will be quite useful for people who are viewing it. But yeah, I think Love, thanks a lot, and it was quite insightful for people to know about you as well as the things which can happen around it. So, but thank you very much, Love. You have any last words? Anything you want to say to the audience while learning and then growing in the AI domain?
Yeah, I think first, thank you for having me on the platform. I really enjoyed the conversation. But I think what I would recommend is always pick a domain that you know. And I think this is where you're always going to start, right? And then you're going to have to experiment every single day to figure out what's really working, what's not working. You're going to figure out the list of use cases. You're going to do whatever surveys you need to do. You might want to do so many MVPs. You might do so many different iterations. Experimentation is key to winning. Every failed experiment is one step closer to success. And then I think another really important thing is to build your data literacy. Build your data literacy as well as your data infrastructure. I think this is going to be extremely important. Without data, nothing's going to work. For us to train any model for how to act in the future, it needs to have historical records in terms of what decisions are the correct decisions and what decisions are the wrong decisions. So that's important. And finally, I think you got to collaborate. I think collaboration is extremely important, right? Find the right partners. No one's going to be able to do everything on their own. There's way too much knowledge out there for one person to do it all by themselves. It's extremely important to have strategic partnerships along the way. And finally, document your learnings. I think it's important to share your successes, share your failures, share it with your partners so they know how to be more efficient. And I think in a collaborative sort of space, you will be able to make bigger leaps. And finally, I guess it is start becoming comfortable to be uncomfortable. So I think that's really important.
Yep. Yep. Perfect. Perfect. Thanks a lot, Love.